In this video, I'm going to show you how you can create this motion graphics like walls in DaVinci Resolve. Now, the first thing is to drag in a fusion composition like always, and let's extend this to 10 seconds. So make sure that you extend this to 10 seconds. And for this one, I'm using this image of a skeleton. You can go ahead, download any image of a skeleton like this, but make sure that it is PNG, or you can say without the background. Now let's head over to the Fusion page. And over here, we're going to add a background, connect the background to the media out, and change the color to white. Now let's drag in our image and add this transform node and also connect this to the background. So here you can see our image is quite large over here. So I'm going to go ahead with 0.15. So this is the size of the image that I'm using, and make sure that you place this somewhere at the bottom. Now go ahead, right click over here and then go over to the guides and then select show guides. And this will enable these guides for you. So you can adjust this according to the border that we have over here. All right, so now we're going to create a semicircle. And for this one, just go ahead and add in this text. Now connect the text with the merge one. And over here in the text, I'm going to just add in these dashes and I'm going to change the color to this one right here. And now let's go over to the layout section and change the type to circle. Change the width to 0.67 and move this right here. And you can use the border right here. So in order to adjust this accordingly. So here we have our semicircle line as well. And now let's animate this. So go over at 50 frames and in the text section, create a keyframe at right on. Then go over at 10 and change the right on to 0. And this is how it will appear. But now we're also going to add a highlight for this semicircle. So in order to get that, just add this polygon and remove this shape animation, add in this background, connect the polygon with the background and the background with the merge 3. And one more thing before we go ahead and add this highlight, just select your text and press Control Space and search for soft glow. And this will add the soft glow in our semicircle line. So let's go ahead and change the glow size to 50. And this is the kind of effect that we will get. So here you can see this is the kind of glow effect that we will get. And now we will go ahead and draw in this polygon. So let's go ahead and start drawing. Right, and now select this modify only option and select your points right here and then select this option for smooth. So this is how it will look. And now you can adjust these points so that this is according to the line that we have right here. So make sure that this is right where our line is. And now select your background and then go over at this type and change this to 4 corner. And for the first one, let's change this to purple. The second one, let's go ahead with the green. And this one, let's go with this sort of a color. And for this one, let's do something like this. So right now, we won't see our line. And this is because we have not set the border width. So go over to the polygon and change the border width to 0.03. And this is how it will look. And you can select this flat option from here. And here is how you can see how it looks. So go over to the background and you can now adjust the colors from here. So let's go with slight blue like this. And over here, let's go with a more green color. All right, and now go over to the merge 3 and change the apply mode to hard light. And this is how it will look. All right, now let's go ahead and add in our sun. So right now I'm just going to unselect this one, this merge 3, so that we don't see this highlight. We only get this yellow line over here. And go ahead, add in this background and also this ellipse. connect the ellipse to the background and change the color of the background to yellow, and connect this with this merge, and this is the shape that you will get. Now right click over here in the expression and connect it to the height and change the height to 0.1. And now select your background 3, and over here you can add this transform. And now once you have this line visible, just go ahead and move this right here in the center position. But you need to change the pivot of this all the way here. So you can use this pivot option and move the y-axis right here. And now if you will rotate the angle, this is going to rotate according to the line over here. And now let's add some light rays coming from the sun. So once again, go ahead, go ahead and add in this polygon and remove the animation, and then add this background. Now we're going to add the same settings to this background as well. So yellow color, and connect this to the merge 4. And now go ahead and add the light rays. So I'm just going to do that like this. And now let's adjust the points. So go ahead and select the background and hit Control Space and search for film grain. So here, if you zoom in, this is the kind of effect that we will get. And make sure that you hit time lock, otherwise this will start moving or start animating. So this will give you a static kind of film grain. Now let's go ahead and add in this ellipse and connect it with the merge 5. Now reduce the width of this and the height of this as well, and place this right here where we have this skull. So somewhere around here. And now let's go ahead and change this to invert. And now change the soft edge to somewhere around here. And now go back to the polygon 2 and over here in the soft edge and change this to 0.1. So this is the light rays now. And let's go ahead and move these points right here. All right. And now it looks like sunlight coming in and but not hitting this skull over here. And let's just reduce the height a little bit more and move this right here. Okay, and now let's add in our grayscale over here. So you can add this background and this rectangle tool, connect them, and connect the background to the merge 5. Now go over to the background and change this to gradient. And in the rectangle, you can decrease the height to 0.1 and move this right here. Or let's change this to 0.05. So this looks okay. And now let's change the width to 0.65 and move this slightly over here. And now let's add a text for this. So I'm going with this Times New Roman font, and let's move this up over here and right over here. And the color, let's change this to dark. So let's also decrease the size to 0.05. Right now, let's start our animation. So over here, let's start the animation from this sun over here. First of all, go over to the sun. So this is the ellipse that we have for the sun. And we also have a transform node. And then we have this sun rays. So let me just write the name over here. This is the sun and this is the sun rays. And you can do that by pressing any node over here and then also pressing F2 on your keyboard. And this will give you the option to rename. And let's also add a transform node for our sun rays. Go over to the transform for the sun, and at 50, create a keyframe at angle. And then also create a keyframe at 100. Now over at 50, change the angle to 107. So if you see this now, this is how it will look. And go ahead, copy this transform over here, and then right click at the transform 3 and then select paste settings. And this will add, now this will move in a similar direction like this. But as you can see over here at 50, we get this highlight of the sun rays but we don't want that. So in order to remove that, just go over to the merge and create a keyframe at blend. Then go over at 60 and create another keyframe. Now the one at 50, change this to 0. So now this looks much better. And now right here at the merge 7, add in this transform node and go over at 10 and or go over at 30 and create a keyframe at size and center. Go over at 10 frames and then increase the size and also move this up so that we only see the skeleton visible. And now if you play this, this is how it will look. All right, so now let's add a mask for this rectangle over here, which is this scale. And let me just rename this to scale. And now let's attach this mask to the merge 6. And over here, you can see, make sure that you move this up here so that this is visible and increase the width. And now, as soon as we have this animation coming in, create a keyframe at 30 at center, and then go over at 50 and create another keyframe. Now, the one at 30, you can move this right out of the screen. So this is how it will look. And let's also go over to the text and create a keyframe at 40 and go over to the layout and in the center, create a keyframe. And then at 30, let's move this right here. So this is how it looks. And let's also do the same thing for our scale as well. So right here at 40, let's create a keyframe at center and then at 30, let's move this up. Okay, now go over to the spline tab. And over here, you can select the transform for each of these. So let's first of all go all the way to this transform 4, which is this transform, which is changing the scale of the whole scene. So let's go over to spline and make sure that you select the size first. So let's select the size and hit S on the keyboard. And let's also select the displacement and make sure you select the keyframes and hit S on the keyboard. And if you play this now, this is how it looks. Now let's do the same thing for this text one. Go over to the transform tool, which is of the sun over here, and select the keyframes, hit S on the keyboard, and do the same thing for this transform 3. And now for the scale over here, we're going to do the same thing. And if you play this now, so this is how it looks. Now let's go over at 80 and create a keyframe in the transform 4 at center and size, and then at 100, let's create another keyframe for both of these. And at 100, let's move this size in like this, and also the y-axis a little bit up like this. So if you play this, this is how it looks. Go over to the spline and then once again select your transform 4. And from here, you can now zoom in, select your keyframes, make sure that you only select one of them at the time. So do the same thing that we did before. And if you play this now, this is how it looks. Okay, so right here, I'm going to add another merge node. And let's add an ellipse, a background, connect these, and change the background color to this one. And now let's decrease the size of the ellipse and move this right here. And unselect the solid and change the border width to 0.005. And let's also decrease this height and width just so that this is within the skull right here, like this. And now let's go ahead and add in by pressing Control Space, search for displays and add in this displays. Now let's add a fast noise and connect the fast noise to the displays. Now in the fast noise, change the contrast all the way to 5 and the brightness to 1 and change the scale to 16. And right here where we have this animation, go over to 100, create a keyframe at center, and then at 140, go ahead and move the x-axis like this. So you will get the animation over here. Now let's go over at 100, and in the merge for this, create a keyframe at blend and change this to 0. And at 110, change this back to 1. And at 130, create another keyframe, and then at 140, change this back to 0. So if you play this now, this is the kind of animation that you will get. And now let's go over to the transform, and at 140, create a keyframe once again, like we did before. And this time, go over at 80 and copy the same settings from here. So this one would be at 0.5, and then this one would be at 1. So at 140, we have a keyframe set, and then at 160, we're going to create another keyframe like this and change this to 1. And at the one at 140, make sure that this is the same as one at the one at 100. So now you can see how this looks. All right, and now let's go ahead, hit S on the keyboard by selecting these keyframes, and here we have it. And now let's go back to the line that we created, this polygon line, and at 150, create a keyframe at length at 0, and then go over at 180 and change this to 1. And now you can go over to this merge 3 and enable this. So if you play this now, this is how it will look. And of course, you can go over to spline and change the keyframes from here. So this one was polygon 1. Go over to the polygon 1 and select the length keyframes and hit S on the keyboard. So this is how it looks. And now we can quickly add in a text as the final thing. And let's call this daylight and change this to Times New Roman and go over to the shading. So let me just go over to 180 over here, 180 keyframes, and move this right here and change the type to gradient. Now over here, go over to this section and just change the red and green to 0 and slightly move this right here. So if we zoom in, this is how it looks, but change the opacity to 0.3. And now create a keyframe at 200 and go over at 180 and change this to 0. So we have our basic animation done. And if you play this, this is how it looks. So this was it for this video. I hope you found this video useful, and I'll see you in the next one.